First up, let's go to the floods in Victoria. Obviously a breaking story as we go to air tonight. Suffice to say that we're seeing a precious resource literally draining away.
Good evening. A flood emergency is looming with up to 100 millimetres of rain forecast to lash Victoria.
They're full to the brim. Water is being released from Lake Eppalock, while dams like the Thompson haven't spilled in more than 30 years, but it could be overflowing by this weekend. Dartmouth Dam near Wodonga recently spilled for the first time in 26 years, and at Lake Eildon it's so full it's barely recognisable.
Our water storages are absolutely full, our catchments are absolutely saturated, so every time we see reasonable rainfall totals, unfortunately we're going to see some communities back under flood warnings again.
So if only we had the technology to store all this excess water, as the Australian reported in 2019. The Victorian government has ruled out new dams, saying climate change means not enough water would flow into them to make them worthwhile. Water Minister Lisa Neville says water in the state's rivers will halve by 2065, citing this forecast in her refusal to build even one dam. Now, this is despite the fact that the state's population is expected to double over that period, and rather, she said, Victoria would rely on its high electricity consuming desalination plant, from which it has ordered $81 million of water this year, costing average households what she said was only $10. Here's from the Australian again in the same year. Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews has declared that dams don't make it rain, defending his government's policy of refusing to increase the state's water storage capacity as he announced more than $31.5 million in drought relief funding for Victorian farmers. Well, Daniel Andrews, take a look at the latest snapshot of Victorian dam levels. Your lowest of all of these is 84.7%. And what was your priority? Well, former Victorian Labor Deputy Premier and then Chair of Melbourne Water, John Thwaite, said in 2019...
Our dams are an important part of our water supply, but given the impact of climate change, we're going to have a lot less rainfall. All of Victoria is affected by climate change. Let's be really clear about that. So it's not so much a question of just a drought, it's a question of a long-term reduction in water through climate change. We're already seeing about 30% less water coming into our dams. That's why we've got a desalination plant, which is now providing about a quarter of Melbourne's water.
Well, there you go, a desalination plant. Talk about a white elephant. And yet only a month ago, the ABC was reporting without protest that climate change could make manufactured water a necessity in Victorian homes. No mentions of the Andrews government wasting the opportunity to build more dams to capture this resource. And we still wonder why governments can get away with these farcical and expensive measures in the name of saving the planet.